Lerone Murphy versus Josh Emmett has to be one of the worst cards in recent history. Half of the fights were snooze fest and the other half contrast significantly in entertainment value. The first fight of the main event is the greatest robbery in UFC history because it's not an exploitation of the rules. The rules state that damage trumps all. Second comes aggression and cage control. Torres landed 4 significant strikes in the entire fight. All 4 of his significant strikes were in the second round alone, which I gave to him. The first and third round he did absolutely nothing except shoot for takedowns and control Robert. Before you continue watching this video, I ask that you help me get to 1,000 subscribers or else your sleep paralysis demon is gonna play this event on loop for 8 hours. Robert was landing elbows in the clinch and he also landed straight punches before Torres would take him down. How the heck did they give that fight to Torres? Just when I thought the card was cursed, they saved the day, finishing Luis in the second round with the left hand after being mauled in the first. We shouldn't have expected anything less from him because he was 1-3 in his last 4 fights, and had he lost this one, it would have potentially been career ending. Gerald Meerschaert versus Brad Tavares was another decent fight, and it went exactly how I expected. I think GM3 has good BJJ, and Khamzat didn't want to take him down when they fought, but he did knock him out in the first round. Who knows? Maybe if the fight went on a little longer, he would have wrestled him. But I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Khamzat's BJJ wasn't that good at the time, and maybe he didn't have full confidence in himself grappling with someone like GM3. It was the same case for Brad Tavares because GM3 tried to bait him into his guard, but Brad had no interest and kept things on the feet. He managed to outstrike him for 3 rounds and hurt him on multiple occasions. The only round that could have potentially went to GM3 was the third one. My favorite fight on the card by far was Cortavius Romeus versus Chang Ho Lee. Chang Ho Lee displayed the highest level of MMA on the card by far. They had some even exchanges on the feet as well as ground with beautiful takedowns that they both landed on each other as well as scrambles. Cortavius had good takedown defense in the first round, but he got gassed out in the second and was eventually finished via ground and pound. Chang Ho Lee's understanding of positioning was similar to Khabib, and I think he might be a future champion someday. I just think it's crazy how an unranked fighter in the bantamweight division was fighting better than ranked fighters in higher divisions. This fight was so awesome that the next one had to be boring. We had Pat Sabatini with an upset win over Joanderson Brito, which was unexpected knowing that Pat was finished by Damon Jackson. I don't think anyone would agree that Damon Jackson is a better fighter than Joanderson Brito. Joanderson may not be great, but he definitely looks like someone who imposes his will on his opponents, and he had a close fight with William Gomez, but this is MMA where underdogs more favorites for 3 rounds straight, landing minimal ground and pound. He may not have done much, but I was still impressed with the fact that he took down Joanderson with ease in every single round and kept him down there. Joanderson looked like a deer at headlights, similar to Sean Brady versus Leon Edwards. I would say the main event was underwhelming, but then again it's Lerone Murphy. Lerone is a very technical striker and he doesn't like to take risks, and oftentimes that can be perceived as boring. In this case it was actually boring. He was fighting on the back foot and had some pretty good footwork and was moving laterally. He was afraid of Josh Emmett's power, and understandably so. I think Josh hits harder than Ilya, and the only difference is precision. Lerone was keeping his hands up and didn't stay in the pocket too long. He landed a lot of body kicks, low kicks, straight punches, but the fight was mostly uneventful and Lerone still had his hand raised. Was this fight a robbery? No, because in as much as Lerone was fighting on the back foot, he was landing way more strikes and you could see the significant strike count. Those are known to not be reliable, but at the same time I don't think it's that far from the actual value. This fight went exactly how I expected because Lerone has all the tools to beat Josh. He was younger and faster. He may not have the power advantage, but just the simple fact that Josh is 40 years old means he's at the back end of his career. Moving on to the prelims, Vanessa Dumopoulos versus Talita Alencar was the lowest level IQ fight on the card by a mile. We had Talita shooting for takedowns and scoring most of them, not out of skill, but out of Vanessa's lack of takedown defense. Talita was the better grappler by far, as she does have a BJJ black belt, so Vanessa was trying to keep things on the feet, but all she had was haymakers. She had no regard for defense or the takedown threat, so the whole fight was pretty much Talita controlling Vanessa, landing minimal ground and pound. Martin Buday versus Uran Satibaldiev was actually a pretty decent fight. We had Martin clinching with Uran and landing knees as well as short hooks. Uran had some nice 1-2s, but Martin was just way too big, weighing in at 285 pounds, which is 20 pounds over the heavyweight limit, whereas Uran is a natural light heavyweight, weighing in at around 220 pounds. He took this fight on short notice, yet he still managed to rock Martin in the third round with the cross, but he only won the third round, so Martin was the one who got his hand raised. Pedro Valcao versus Victor Henry was the usual grappler versus striker with good takedown defense. Pedro tried to take the Khabib he brought with chain wrestling, but he just ended up eating a bunch of strikes, one of which dropped him, hence Henry winning the fight. Loma Lookboonmee versus Estela Nunes was almost not boring. I appreciated the blitzes Loma was landing, where she would throw a roundhouse followed by a 1-2, and she caught Estela off guard with it multiple times. She was at a height and reach disadvantage, standing at 5'1", so she did try to keep things on the ground for the most part. That was where things got boring, because in as much as the judo trips were pretty slick, all she would do is take down Estela and control her, landing minimal ground and pound. Reese McKee versus Daniel Frunze has to be one of, if not the best fight on the card. It was a one-sided ass beating where Reese dropped Daniel 3 times and somehow one of the judges scored it 10-9. What more would you have to do to score a 10-8 round? I'm so happy for Reese because this is his first win in the UFC after being on a 4-fight losing streak, losing to killers like Hamza Chimaev and Ange Losa. Diana Belbita versus Dion Barboza was another one-sided ass beating, with Dion opening as the -1000 favorite. It makes sense because she's 3-1 in the UFC, with the only loss being against Miranda Maverick, who is a ranked fighter by the way. Dion imposed the will on Diana with the physicality, landing the 1-2 on multiple occasions, then eventually getting an arm triangle submission in the first round. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.